Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up every day feeling completely in control of your thoughts with no negative thinking holding you back. What if you could eliminate that inner voice that constantly tells you you're not good enough or that you can't achieve your goals? Well, it's time to take charge and kill your negative thinking once and for all. Negative thoughts have the power to limit your potential, shape your reality, and keep you stuck in a cycle of self-doubt. But here's the good news. You have the ability to change your mindset, and it starts with the decision to stop letting those negative thoughts dictate your life. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to break free from the grip of negativity so you can unlock your full potential and begin living the life you deserve. Don't let negativity control you any longer. Take the first step toward a positive, empowered mindset today. I'm not saying this is easy. If it were, everyone would already be doing it, but it is simple. And there's a big difference between something being simple and something being easy. The formula itself is straightforward. It's the discipline that's challenging. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how negative thoughts come effortlessly? You don't need to take a class to learn them, right? No one has to teach a child how to throw a tantrum or feel envy. Negative thinking is part of our default wiring. It's the easier path. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Positive thinking, in contrast, takes effort. It's a discipline. Something you have to nurture, build, and practice every single day. Think of it like gardening. The weeds, those are your negative thoughts. They'll grow on their own. But if you want to see roses, you have to plant them, water them, and take care of them consistently. I realized a long time ago that success leaves clues. If you want to reach meaningful goals, study those who already have. And when you examine truly successful people, not just those with money, but those with deep fulfillment, you'll notice one shared quality. They've trained their minds. They stop negative thoughts before those thoughts can stop them. Why does that matter? Because everything you experience in life, your relationships, your health, your finances, your happiness, stems from the way you think. It all starts in your mind. Let me share something powerful with you. You are not what you think you are, but what you think you are. Let that sink in. Your life right now is a mirror of your mindset up to this point. If you're not happy with what you see, you need to shift your thinking. That's the core truth. I once spoke with a man who told me, I've been broke for so long, I can't picture being anything else. And I told him, well, that's the real issue. If you can't picture it, you can't become it. Your imagination, shaped by either positive or negative thoughts, defines the limits of your life. Many people spend their entire lives inside the walls built by their own negative thoughts, brick by brick, thought by thought. And the saddest part? Most don't even realize they hold the key to their own release. Now, I'm not here to offer some lighthearted motivational message about thinking positively. This is deeper than that. I'm talking about intentional, focused control of your mental space. Because here's the truth. Your mind is a battleground, constantly under pressure. And if you don't take charge of that space, something else will. Let me leave you with a story about two wolves. There's an old tale. It says, inside each of us, two wolves are in constant battle. One stands for fear, doubt, limits, and failure. The other stands for hope, courage, confidence, and potential. So which wolf wins the fight? The one you feed. Each time you entertain a negative thought, you're feeding the wolf of limitation. But every time you choose a positive thought instead, you're feeding the wolf of possibility. Over time, the wolf you feed grows stronger while the other fades. It's really that simple and that powerful. But here's what many people don't realize. You're not obligated to accept every thought that enters your mind. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean you have to welcome it in, serve it dinner, or let it take over your mental space. You have both the power and the responsibility to examine your thoughts, decide which ones are worth keeping and which ones need to go. This principle can truly transform your life if you apply it with consistency. What surprises me is how careful people are with what they eat. They check labels, count calories, avoid harmful ingredients, and that's a good habit. You should care about what you put into your body, but what about what you put into your mind? Are you just as selective there? Because honestly, the thoughts you consume may be just as important, maybe even more important than the food you eat. Let me ask you this, would you ever eat out of a dumpster? Of course not. But when you fill your mind with negative news, engage in gossip, or surround yourself with toxic conversations and energy, that's basically what you're doing, feeding your mind emotional junk. And then you wonder why you feel drained or stuck. Shutting down negative thinking begins with being extremely mindful of what you allow into your mental space from the start. Now, maybe you're thinking, but I can't stop negative thoughts from showing up. And you're right. You can't always control the first thought that enters your mind. But here's the key. You can control the second thought, the third, and everyone after that. You choose whether that initial negative thought becomes a mental pattern or whether you replace it with something more helpful. That's where your real power is, not in stopping the first thought, but in how you respond. Here's a simple but powerful tool. When a negative thought comes up, immediately ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is it leading me closer to my goals or pulling me further away? That one question can interrupt the flow of negative thinking right away. It forces you to pause and reflect rather than just accept the thought without question. The quality of your life is closely tied to the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Poor questions lead to poor results. Better questions lead to a better life. When you ask, why does this always happen to me? Your mind will look for answers that make you feel like a victim. But when you shift the question to what can I learn from this? Or how can I grow through this? Your mind begins to seek out insight and opportunity. The questions you ask yourself each day are incredibly powerful. They're like a steering wheel for your thoughts. That's why it's so important to ask intentional questions. Use them to guide your thinking toward your goals, not your fears. One of the most damaging types of negative thinking is what I call the comparison trap. We look at someone else's achievements, their highlight reel, and compare it to our behind-the-scenes struggles. And we think, I'll never be that good, that successful, that happy. But this mindset can seriously stall your progress. The only comparison that truly matters is between who you are today and who you were yesterday. Are you learning? Are you improving? Are you growing? That's what counts. Everything else is just noise that feeds self-doubt and negativity. Another type of negative thinking that can limit your potential is something psychologists refer to as catastrophizing. It's when a small issue gets blown out of proportion in your mind. You lose a client and suddenly you imagine your whole business collapsing. You make one mistake and assume your reputation is ruined forever. This habit turns minor issues into imagined disasters. And the problem is your body doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a made-up one. So you end up feeling the stress, anxiety, and fear of a situation that isn't even real. That's not only exhausting, it's unnecessary. Instead, when you face a challenge, train yourself to think, this is temporary, this is specific, this does not define me or my entire life. Just that shift in mindset can completely change how you experience setbacks. And here's something else you need to understand about negative thinking. It doesn't just feel bad, it costs you. It comes with a price. Missed opportunities, strained relationships, poor health, and yes, even lost income. I've seen people talk themselves out of great possibilities because they listen to that voice in their head saying, this won't work, you're not good enough, the timing's off. Negative thinking is one of the most costly habits a person can have. It can do more damage than smoking, gambling, or other destructive habits. Because while those might harm certain areas of your life, negative thinking affects everything. And that's why it's crucial to take it seriously. Now, let me be clear about one thing. Eliminating negative thinking doesn't mean denying reality. It's not about pretending problems don't exist or forcing a smile during tough times. That's not the point. What I'm talking about is approaching reality with a healthy perspective, seeing things clearly without exaggerating them, and then choosing to direct your focus and energy towards solutions rather than getting stuck on the problem. Not just dwelling on what's wrong, but thinking about what you're going to do about it. The truth is, the most successful people aren't those with the fewest problems. They're the ones who've developed strong problem-solving skills. And it all begins with how they choose to think. When facing a setback, people who struggle often think, why is this happening? This is awful. This always happens to me. I can't deal with this. But successful thinkers approach the same situation and ask, what can I learn here? Where's the opportunity? How can I use this? What's my next step? Same challenge, different mindset, very different results. One of the most powerful tools for silencing negative thoughts is something I call deliberate gratitude. It's not just about being thankful when things go well. It's about intentionally seeking things to be grateful for, even in the middle of challenges. Gratitude and negativity can't coexist. When you're truly grateful, negativity starts to fade. So the next time your mind starts spiraling, pause and ask yourself, what are 3 things I can genuinely appreciate right now? Do this regularly and you'll find negative thinking loses its grip. Another strategy is to become more aware of your language, the words you use, both when speaking to others and in your inner dialogue. shape how you think. For example, saying, I have to do this creates a sense of pressure or burden. But saying, I get to do this shifts the feeling to one of privilege or opportunity. I have to go to work versus I get to go to work. Feel the difference? One builds stress, the other builds perspective. One makes you feel stuck, the other reminds you that you have access to things many people wish they had. Your words influence your mindset, which shapes your emotions, which drive your actions, which create your results. So be very intentional with the language you use. It's either helping you or holding you back. Let me share a concept that changed my life. It's called the slight edge. This idea is simple but powerful. Success and failure don't usually come from huge decisions or dramatic events. They come from small choices made consistently over time. Reading just 10 pages of a good book each day might not feel like much, but over a year, that adds up to 3,650 pages, or about 18 books. Do that for 5 years and you've read around 90 books more than someone who never started. That's a serious advantage in knowledge, growth, and mindset. Now think about the flip side. One negative thought might not seem like a big deal, but when that thought is repeated every day, it becomes a belief. That belief turns into a negative perspective. And that perspective over time becomes a negative life. That's the slight edge, either working for you or against you. On the flip side, one positive thought reinforced consistently becomes a positive belief. That belief shapes a positive outlook, and that outlook over time creates a positive life. Same principle, completely different result. The key is realizing that where you'll be in 5 years depends on the small mental choices you make today, tomorrow, and every day after that. Success isn't something you own, it's something you rent. And the rent is due daily, paid through consistent, positive, and intentional thinking. Now, when I talk about overcoming negative thinking, some people take it the wrong way. They assume I mean you should never have a negative thought, but that's not realistic. Negative thoughts will show up. The real question is, what will you do when they do? Think of negative thoughts like uninvited guests knocking on your door. You can't stop them from knocking, but you don't have to let them in. You don't have to entertain them or make them comfortable. Acknowledge them briefly, then firmly send them away. One effective method for handling this is a strategy I call thought interruption. When you catch yourself thinking negatively, intentionally cut off the thought and replace it with a planned, positive alternative. You're training your mind to say, no, I'm not following that path, I'm choosing this one instead. This might be as simple as saying, this thought doesn't serve me, or I'm focusing on what I can control. The important thing is to have these phrases prepared in advance so that when negative thinking begins, you've got an immediate counter. With practice, this response becomes automatic. What started as a conscious effort turns into a mental habit, and that's when real change begins, when positive thinking feels as natural as negative thinking once did. Let me share a powerful exercise to help speed up this shift. It's called the evening review, and it's something I practiced for many years. At the end of each day, take a few quiet moments to reflect. Ask yourself, where did negative thinking show up today? What triggered it? How did I respond? What effect did it have on my actions or mood? This exercise isn't about self-criticism, it's about increasing your awareness. Because what you become aware of, you can change, but what stays hidden will continue to control you. By reviewing your day consistently, you'll begin to see patterns. Maybe you tend to think negatively when you're tired, stressed, or after interacting with certain people. That awareness gives you power. You can prepare for those situations, strengthen your mindset, and respond with intention rather than habit. Now, here's something that might surprise you. Sometimes what seems like negative thinking is actually your mind trying to process something important. Let me explain. When you go through a disappointment or a failure, and we all do, it's totally normal and even healthy to feel bad for a little while. You need that time to recognize what happened, to sit with it, and to learn from it. That's not negative thinking, that's wisdom. Negative thinking happens when you stay stuck in that place, when disappointment becomes your mental address instead of just a stop on your journey. That's why I use what I call the 24-hour. When something genuinely upsetting happens, give yourself a full day, 24 hours, to feel it, be upset, be disappointed, reflect on it, learn from it, but then make a decision to move forward. Shift your focus from what happened to what you're going to do next, from the problem to the solution, from the past to the future. This rule gives you space to feel and process like a human being without letting that moment define your mindset moving forward. It balances emotional honesty with mental discipline. and it's a game changer. Now let's talk about something a lot of people miss when it comes to killing negative thinking: your physical health. Your body and your mind are deeply connected. When your body is drained, your mental defenses are down. That's when negative thoughts creep in the easiest. This is why things like regular exercise, good nutrition, solid sleep, and managing stress aren't just physical self-care, they're mental weapons. They build the foundation for positive thinking to thrive. I've noticed it in my own life. On days when I exercise, eat clean, and get good sleep, my mind is clearer. I feel stronger, more focused, more optimistic. But on days I skip those basics, negative thoughts come knocking a lot more often, and they're harder to shake. It's not just mood, it's chemistry, it's biology. So if you're going to win the battle against negative thinking, your body needs to be part of your plan. This isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Another key strategy is something I call intentional environment design. That means creating surroundings, both physical and social, that naturally support positive thinking. This includes the people you hang around. You've probably heard me say, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That doesn't just apply to money or success, it applies to your thinking. If you're constantly around people who complain, gossip, or dwell in the worst case scenario, it's going to rub off. Not because you're weak, because you're human. But if you spend time with people who think positively, who look for solutions, who believe in growth and opportunity, their mindset will strengthen yours. Their courage feeds your courage. And this same idea applies to your information environment too. What you read, watch, and listen to, whether it's the news, social media, books, or podcasts, shapes your mindset. These inputs either support a positive outlook or reinforce negative thinking. Be extremely selective about the information you allow into your mind. The principle is simple. If you put in poor quality content, you'll get poor quality results. If you consume high quality content, you'll think and feel better. It really is that straightforward. Let me share a personal experience. Several years ago, I made a choice to begin each morning by reading something uplifting or motivational for at least 30 minutes before checking the news, emails, or messages. This single habit has likely done more to eliminate negative thinking from my life than almost anything else. By feeding my mind with encouraging, empowering content first thing in the day, I shape my mindset to focus on opportunities instead of issues and on solutions rather than setbacks. While I still keep up with current events, I no longer allow the often pessimistic perspective of the news to be my primary influence. I encourage you to consider creating a similar routine. Give your mind positive, nourishing input before exposing it to the mental equivalent of junk food. Your morning routine is like setting your GPS for the day. If you start with negative content, don't be surprised if your mindset follows a negative path. Now, let's go deeper into overcoming negative thinking by addressing the core beliefs that give rise to these thoughts. While it's helpful to replace negative thoughts with positive ones, it's even more effective to shift the underlying beliefs that produce them. For instance, if you hold a belief that success is rare and hard to achieve, you'll naturally generate discouraging thoughts every time you aim high. You can try to respond to these thoughts one by one, but they'll persist as long as the root belief stays the same. However, if you replace that belief with something like, success is the natural result of consistent, focused effort, you'll begin to notice that empowering thoughts emerge more effortlessly. This is about treating the cause, not just the symptoms. So how do you change these foundational beliefs? It begins with conscious reflection and intentional rethinking. Start by identifying the negative beliefs that fuel your unhelpful thoughts. These may relate to your abilities, your potential, how life works, or what you believe you deserve. Once you've pinpointed a limiting belief, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this truly accurate, or have I accepted it without questioning? What real evidence exists that contradicts this belief? What examples, either from your own life or from others, show that this belief is not universally true? Once you identify these examples, consciously replace the limiting belief with an empowering one. This isn't about wishful thinking or naive optimism. It's about adopting a belief that is both positive and rooted in evidence and possibility. For example, instead of thinking, I'm not good at public speaking, you might adopt the belief, public speaking is a skill I can improve with practice and preparation. Similarly, instead of thinking I always mess up new opportunities, try adopting every experience, whether it goes as planned or not, teaches me valuable lessons that make me more capable. Once you have formulated a new belief, it's crucial to reinforce it daily. Write it down, say it aloud, and actively seek evidence that supports it. Act as if this new belief is already true for you. Over time, this empowering belief will replace the old limiting one, and the negative thoughts connected to the old belief will gradually fade away. This process of belief reconstruction is more challenging than simply countering negative thoughts as they arise, but it's also far more transformative because it addresses the root cause rather than just managing the symptom. Let me share something else that's been immensely impactful in my own journey to eliminate negative thinking: serving others. When your focus is on adding value to someone else's life, it becomes far harder to maintain negative thought patterns. There's something about shifting your attention away from your own problems and limitations and redirecting it toward helping others that fundamentally alters your mental perspective. Selfishness and negative thinking are often intertwined, while service and positive thinking go hand in hand. This doesn't need to be grand or dramatic. It could be as simple as finding small ways every day to improve someone else's life. Whether it's encouraging someone who's struggling, sharing knowledge that can help someone overcome a challenge, or listening attentively and empathetically to someone in need. These acts of service benefit the recipient, but they also transform the giver. They make it much harder to maintain a self-centered negative mindset because they consistently direct your attention outward in a positive way. On days when I feel negative thoughts creeping in, one of the most effective responses is to immediately look for a way to serve someone else. It's nearly impossible to stay mired in negativity when you're focused on adding value to someone else's life. As we approach the conclusion, I want to address something important. Eliminating negative thinking doesn't mean you'll never experience another negative thought. That's not the goal, nor is it realistic. The goal is to build such strong mental habits and positive routines that negative thinking no longer dominates your mind. Think of it like physical fitness. A fit person isn't someone who never feels tired. They've simply developed the strength and endurance to handle physical challenges that would overwhelm someone who hasn't built those capacities. Similarly, mental fitness isn't about never experiencing negative thoughts. It's about building mental strength and resilience to the point where negative thoughts no longer control or define your perspective. You can recognize them when they arise, but choose to think in a more empowering way instead. Like physical fitness, mental fitness requires consistent practice. You don't develop physical strength by exercising just once, and you don't build mental strength by practicing positive thinking occasionally. It's the small, consistent actions, the daily habits that lead to long-term transformation. Let me leave you with this final thought. Overcoming negative thinking isn't just about feeling better, though that's certainly a benefit. It's about becoming capable of creating the life you truly want, because you can only achieve what you first envision in your mind. Negative thinking limits your vision. It tells you that you can't, that you shouldn't, that you're not good enough. As long as you accept these thoughts, you remain confined within the limits they impose. Positive thinking, however, expands your possibilities. It opens doors that negative thinking insists are closed. It reveals opportunities that negativity hides from you and connects you with people and resources that negativity would push away. Your thinking shapes your experience far more than your external circumstances. Two people can face the same situation and experience it completely differently, simply based on how they think about it. So I challenge you today to make a decisive choice about the kind of thoughts you will allow to occupy your mind. Will you continue letting negative thinking limit your life, or will you begin right now to replace it with something better? The choice is yours, and it is an important one. While you can't always control what happens to you, you can always control how you think about what happens, and that ultimately makes all the difference. Remember, success is not something you chase after, it's something you attract by becoming the right kind of person. And the person you become is shaped thought by the quality of your thinking each day. So start today. Begin small. If you catch a negative thought, replace it with a positive one. Do this today, tomorrow, and the day after. These small daily victories over negative thinking will add up and transform your mindset over time, and as a result, your life. You already have everything you need to start this journey. You have the ability to observe your thoughts. You have the power to choose which thoughts you entertain and which you dismiss. You can create new, empowering beliefs and thinking patterns. All that's needed now is your decision to take responsibility for the quality of your thinking and commit to the daily discipline of eliminating negative thinking before it diminishes your dreams. Thank you for your time today. I hope your path toward mental excellence brings you all the joy, success, and fulfillment you seek. Now that you understand the power of your thoughts, it's time to ask yourself, are you ready to let go of the negativity that's been holding you back? Are you ready to take control of your mind and shape the future you truly deserve. Killing your negative thinking isn't just a way to feel better, it's a transformative choice that empowers you to take action, unlock opportunities, and embrace a mindset that leads to success. Don't let another day go by with your potential being wasted by self-doubt and fear. The moment you decide to shift your thinking is the moment everything changes. So take the first step, make that choice today, and watch as your life begins to shift in ways you never thought possible. It's time to kill your negative thinking and unleash the power of a positive, unstoppable mindset. Are you ready to make that change?